My name's Richard Sen and I produce and DJ under the name Padded Cell. The main influence was going to the Astoria on Saturdays, Nicky Holloway and Pete Tong. I think it was called Made on Earth. I didn't go to Trip. It was after Trip, it was Made on Earth. And just that ritual of going every Saturday to there and hearing what they'd play and knowing what they were going to play and wanting them to play the certain records was kind of my initiation into that house scene. They'd play anything from kind of hip house, like We Papa Girl Rappers or something like that, or Cookie Crew, to European Balearic dance, like Code 61, Drop the Deal, Flesh of Split Second, which was like a new beat classic. That was like an anthem there. I first started DJing seriously in 1989. I got my first residency at the Astoria on a Saturday night. It was a place called the Crazy Club, which happened after Nicky Holloway's nights. And they started off as a Sunday club at Busby's, where everyone would go after they'd been raving all night. They'd carry on the Sunday afternoon in Busby's. And then it just developed into a bigger thing at the Limelight, which was on Shaftesbury Avenue, and then the Astoria. In the main room was what were later to become the hardcore DJs, Fabio and Groove Rider, Ray Keith, Matthew Bushwhacker, people like that. They were playing kind of the darker end of house mixed with American house stuff, early rave. And at the time it was, I loved the house stuff at the time, New Groove, Strictly Rhythm. I know Fabio and Groove Rider used to play a lot of American, like New Groove and Strictly Rhythm stuff, and New York, kind of early New York house, which I loved. But I wasn't too keen on the more kind of ravier and early hardcore end of it. So I'd play in the back room a mixture of kind of funky breakbeat stuff from Europe, deeper like Italian house, and the American house stuff. There were pirate radio stations that were quite popular at the time, like Centreforce, and LWR I think was still on. Jazzy M had a show called the Jackin Zone, but I can't remember what, possibly LWR. And that was a station I'd listened to even before, when it was Tim Westwood would have a show on there. So LWR and Centreforce I used to really like a lot. I know they were run by apparently some dodgy people, but they were really, really popular and quite powerful within that scene at the time. A guy called Tony Wilson used to do like a Balearic show on Centreforce, and his stuff was amazing. His selection and taste was right across the board. And then obviously Kiss FM, which maybe became legal around that time, were doing good shows with Rampling and Colin Faver, Colin Dale, people like that. So what I wanted to do for this Ain't Chicago album, I wanted to kind of show a different side that maybe hadn't been shown before. So digging much deeper and much more darker, in fact, and trying to kind of bring out tracks from the lesser known like East London labels, but that still sound good now. I guess the range of music on there was what was happening at the time with those few years. It wasn't just house. I mean, you'd go out to raves and you'd hear breakbeat tracks and you'd hear European kind of new beat tracks. So the range of the tracks on the comp just was my taste of what my favourites were of that era. So ranging from something like Playtime tunes, which you could call like an electro. I think he was inspired by Planet Rock for the beat, and then straight up kind of deeper house, like with Julian Jonah, who possibly tried to copy the Americans in his style. And then you've got like the Return of the Living Acid, which is purely English. You wouldn't get that anywhere else. That is the sound of England, kind of early rave, heavy heavy dub, almost reggae bass and bleeps. One track that kind of comes to mind in the comp is the Julie Stapleton one, Where Has Your Love Gone? Because it was quite, I mean, I still work in a record shop part-time, and I've been playing the comp, and every time I play the Julie Stapleton one, the older guys in there kind of look up and it kind of rings a bell with them. They're like, oh my God, I haven't heard this for years. But it never actually became one of those classics or something that you'd appear on the comps or was really well known or became well known. Or I think it was just more of a hit on the radio, pirate radio. So that kind of, I don't know, it kind of stuck with me, and the kind of it was quite dark and melancholic, but still poppy, resulting in Kylie doing a cover version of it. I think it was just a massive trend at the time in the 80s. This acid house scene, clubbing, going out, taking ecstasy. This guy Nick, the record, has just put up some footage on Facebook of Harvey's ending his set at Tonka in 1990 in Brighton, and this is a Monday night, and it's, I don't know, 400 or 500 people going absolutely mental, all kind of in unison, and I couldn't imagine anything, just the energy. Obviously it was drug induced, but I can't imagine anywhere like that now.
We started back in 1987, yeah? We had an artist called May, which I found at a talent competition. I was kind of influenced by Strut Records, yeah? I used to love everything Trax. Not so much because of what they were saying or what they were doing, it's just, it was what we call fat, yeah? The production was fat, the beats were fat, everything was fat, and they just rolled it out, yeah? So we were trying to do our own thing, and as I said, back in the days, it was difficult to get a recording studio, extremely difficult, because it was all live bands, yeah? Basically, we then did like a demo with May. You know what, I'm not even sure, no, what happened, to be honest, what happened is I went to some workshop in Deptford, used to be called Lewisham Academy, it's gone now, I think, and they had a drum machine course, yeah, and I always wanted to get on a drum machine because I knew it was like the new thing, yeah, and I'd never played a drum machine before, but when they put it on for me, I asked them, said, look, if I do this, you know, muck around, can I keep whatever I do at the end? And they said to me, yeah, why not, you know? So I come out with some sick drum beats, yeah, which became Love Me Baby. From that, I knew it was something hot, yeah, because I used the 707, whereas people were using 909 and 808, so I wanted something slightly different, more tribal. We went to several studios. I think we went to one, a friend of mine, to do the vocals. He's a producer as well now, or something. And then we went to another one to do like the bass and all that, the symphony bits. And then using the Juno, you know, Juno, I love the Juno, man. No, Juno 60, I think it was called, something like that. And then we went to a studio by a guy called Michael Mensa, who's late now, unfortunately, a genius, man. Genius, who's part of Double Trouble. We used his studio in New Cross called Noisegate. It's a private one in the house. And he was able to sort of just kind of knock things about a little bit and make it sound fat. May was supposed to do a gig at, I think it was something called Biology. Yeah, it was Biology. But that was, they were going to have about 18,000 people. This was like towards the end when a lot of the young people were getting rumbled by the police, stopped by their parents to go out and rave in the middle of the countryside. So that was fun though, because we went all around and it never happened. They rumbled us, not us, the whole thing, so it was called off. But that would have been something, man, that would have been something.
Free. There was a huge resistance to house music from everyone. From the people that were beginning to the early electro, the rare groove people, People did walk out of clubs, people wouldn't listen to it. So people used to try and squeeze it in at the end. It's a bit like Kid was the house DJ of Soul to Soul, you would say. And Jazzy did attempt this a few times, where he would say, okay, Kid, you're up, and you have to play a bit of house. Because on pirate radio, we had the precursor to house music. We all knew it was working, but the clubbers weren't quite ready in London there, which is probably why it emerged via the gay scene, where they were already listening to high energy, which we weren't listening to. And I think this was people didn't realise there was a difference. Everyone thought it was all the same, but it wasn't. I probably knew Kid from before, probably from the early 80s. We were both listening to soul. I was listening to reggae, loads of James Brown, Parliament, P-Funk, and he was more of an upfront DJ. We both played on Contrast, which was on Upper Street, Contrast Radio. I think we had about 8 or 9 well-known jocks all playing there, local pirate radio station. But I think around, when was it? Around, I don't know, probably around 85, 86. I think I heard Keith Franklin. I heard him playing in a party across the road from where I was living in Holborn. And I went to the party because I could hear the music, and I think that's how I met Keith. Just because of the music. And he was already in the game with his brother Mel. They were playing out as a team. And he used to play in a club called The Lift, where he was a resident. But he was probably one of the people that knew more about house in them days than we did. And then, from there, I think it was kind of straightforward. I kind of remember how we hooked up with Tony Addis at Addis Ababa, who it was through, but they were a reggae studio and they were established. They put out albums, they probably had about 8 to 10 artists. But, for the life of me, I can't remember who hooked it up. We had an Italian connection. We used to bring over Italian DJs, and Kid became a resident in Italy, again, during 87 to 92. So, we would be in places like Rimini, Rome, Naples, and we'd have their DJs coming over to our club. So he had this, he learned Italian, he met his German wife, so he always saw himself as being a new European sound. And really, even though we had a London club, and what he did with the songs was that that was the character that came out in the records with the Twisted Love songs. It would be split, because in the studio we wouldn't do the programming, we would actually do either the recording of the track, so it was split. And I'd go over to Croydon, to South East Croydon, or one part of Croydon, to program it with, what was his name, Paul Hurt, in his little bedroom. And then he'd bring the stuff back in the following week, and then we'd bring it up on the desk, split it all up, and then add what needs to be added. But it was that, again, the track was a long drawn-out process from being, on a little disc onto the tape, and then we'd probably record it with one engineer, and then we ended up doing further remixes with, not just Ian Tregonin, but also Paul Waller, who ended up working at the studio as well. So you add that kind of element, which is one of the reasons why I believe that track grew so big, is that it went through so many good hands, which helped it become enormous. Bang Bang fitted much more perfectly in New York City in 1988, and somewhere like, God knows, even Larry the band would play it near the end, Tony would play it. But here, I don't think I heard that out maybe for until 7 years later. It was a little bit too left field for London. Bang Bang really is a good track. It meant something, and it means something now, because it's part of our, again, probably one of the first urban house tracks from London, local, and I think that's the reason why it's lasting.
Heaven was quite an inspiration to me. A guy called Ian Levine was the first person in England I'd actually heard mixed music. And I went to Heaven on a Saturday night, which was a pure gay night, but the energy and the power and his mix was just amazing. It just blew me away. So I started getting into that music because it was so powerful. And I've never seen, it's so good to see a crowd react like that in London. And so I thought, I could do that at the Camden Palace. I was playing at the Jungle on a Monday, and it was a mixed gay club, but We tried to keep away from the high energy at that club. We tried to make it more funky and New York style garage. Because I'd been to New York with a guy called Burt Beverings, and I stayed with him in Queens, and he took me around to the Paradise Garage and Better Days. I'd never seen a crowd like it before. It was like going to church, because there was no alcohol in the club, you know, it's just fruit juice and whatever was in the fruit juice. But everybody was in such a high state, it was fantastic. The music, you know, it was a cure. Anyway, I came back from there. That was another thing I wanted to recreate in London, basically, after seeing all this energy going down. And that's what I tried to do on a Monday night at Busby's. And yeah, it worked really well there. You know, we get a lot of whooping and cheering, and the music went down well. The house music gradually started creeping in. And I mean, the first really big house track I suppose was I Don't Turn Around, you know, Foley Jackmaster and Daryl Pandy. I mean, he actually came over and did PAs for us. And the energy that came off of that track was amazing. We'd play it for like half an hour and just keep mixing and mixing and mixing. The first house, UK house I actually remember was the Beatmasters and the Cookie Crew. And I mean, this is just after S Express, I think. Yeah, it's around that time anyway. But then Release Your Body, Bang the Party. I mean, we played that record to death, over and over, and wherever we played it, people went mad. So I wouldn't necessarily agree that it was New York first. But I don't necessarily agree that Manchester played house music first, because I think any DJ worth their weight would be playing that music no matter where they were. If they liked it, then they'd play it. And I've never really gone with this battle that Manchester played it first or London played it first. I mean, I don't think that's important at all. I think it was more like the warehouse parties, really. Places like Rip. And I mean, Shum, we were playing all kinds of music there, so I couldn't say that was pure acid. It wasn't. And clubs, like nights like Hedonism, for instance, those famous warehouse parties that nobody actually went to, but a few lucky people that did loved it, you know, it was fantastic. But I mean, we had Soul to Soul playing there as well, so it was a mixture of music, it wasn't just house. But I mean, I think the most important, we were getting into playing the deeper house stuff there, and more of the New York garage stuff, rather than the banging sort of acid, and more of the vocal stuff. And because Kid Bachelor was DJing a lot of the time, I mean, we had a kind of little family scene at Rip and places like that, you know. There was Ian B, Eddie Richards, Mr. C, Kid Bachelor, and we'd do sessions on Kiss as well, like that. I mean, sometimes on a Saturday night we'd go on from midnight until 6 in the morning. And Ian B would do like a little PA on his synthesizer and stuff. And Lawrence would do a mix, Kid Bachelor would do a mix, and Mr. C would do some rapping. And we just go on and on through the night. And I remember a couple of times we'd actually gone off the air about 1 o'clock in the morning and nobody had told us. But we just carried on because, you know, we didn't know. We was having such a good time anyway, you know, it didn't really matter. I've just supported music I like, and I mean, when we started producing quite a lot of house music over here, I mean, like the Annette track, for instance, and Jealousy and Lies, I mean, they're class tracks. I didn't go out my way to support the UK because I loved a lot of American music as well, you know. It was a balance, and I just played what I liked, really. And it was this great big mix. I mean, I was playing Canadian stuff, I was playing a lot of Euro, you know, before house came, we were playing a lot of Euro disco. And that was, yeah, just about before house, because they all fitted in with the high energy scene. Yeah, and the new beat stuff, yeah, of course. Like, you've just released this album, and there's credit right there, you know. The music is going to be noticed by quite a few people, I think, you know, and they listen to that and they think, wow, this is good, you know, because it does sound good, that compilation, I think. I was surprised how how good a lot of those tracks still sound, you know, and they do. I mean, there's some corny bits in there, but overall, I think it still sounds fresh.